working in 0.5, but this time we're going to be working with another model, the model for interest problems. And very specifically for this section, we're going to be looking at something called simple interest. As we move through the class, and especially as we move into chapter 6, we will be able to expand on this and look at other compounding interest problems that get really exciting. For right now, we're going to keep things straightforward for our introduction to interest. And I've invited Squirrel to come join us because he made a bunch of money selling pumpkins. And so he's interested in maybe investing in some simple interest. So interest at its simplest is the additional amount you earn from an investment, or it could be the cost of a loan. So every loan has two parts. I'll bring in Blue Dinosaur. Blue Dinosaur has all the money. And if he loans some money to Squirrel, then Squirrel will pay interest. If Squirrel goes to Blue Dinosaur and says, can I deposit some money there, put money in the bank, then the extra money that Squirrel earns is also called interest. So it's called interest regardless of whether you pay it or you earn it. It's just the extra amount. And for everybody who earns it, like if Squirrel puts some money into the Blue Dinosaur bank and earns interest, Blue Dinosaur pays him the interest. So every time there's interest, somebody's getting it and somebody's paying it. So we can look at all of these problems from both sides. Capital I, is generally going to stand for interest, and in this case it's going to be interest without compounding, so simple interest. P is going to stand both for present value and principal, which are possibly slightly different concepts depending on how you're looking at it, but basically boil down to what is the money worth now? How much do you have right now? Now S, strangely enough, is going to stand for future value, and sometimes you might see this as A instead, but we're going to use S. That's what the investment will be worth in the future. So how much extra money will we have earned with the interest? R for right now will be an annual interest rate, but as we move on, we're going to expand our concept of R. Sometimes R changes in some settings, so just be flexible. R should match with T. In this case, T is going to be the number of years of investment, so R is an annual interest rate. If T were the number of months, then R would need to be the monthly interest rate. So we just want to make sure that these two amounts, specifically the years and the word annual means per year, these two should match. So if one says monthly, the other one should say months. If one says daily, the other one should say days. We have to have those times, or those length of times, match up. The first formula is I equals PRT. Principal times rate times time is the interest that is earned, and just the interest. Or S is a little bit more complicated, but basically it's the PRT that we had up there, the interest, plus the initial amount. So for example, if I deposited $100 in the bank and earned $10 in interest, 10 would be I. 110 would be the total amount, the 100 I deposited plus the interest. That would be S. So, first problem. Oh, and I wanted to show you, I do have this lovely little thing, this little cheat sheet, not really cheat sheet because you shouldn't be using it to cheat, but this helpful memory guide. There's a better word. Woohoo, memory guides. Yay. So this is, if you want to copy this down and make it pretty colors on your own, or just, take a picture of this and have that available for when you're doing your homework, just not the tests. This is the formulas we've got so far. And we're going to be using these formulas just as an introduction. So let's go on down. I'm going to squish this up. Okay, so our friend Mr. Squirrel, Farmer Squirrel, has $100 to invest. You invest, and then this is going to be interesting. Mr. Squirrel has two opportunities. You invest $40 at 10% and the rest at 6%. How much money will you have at the end of 2 years? This is a very good question, and this is kind of interestingly complicated. So there are a couple of ways to approach this. Over the years, I have tried a couple of different methods, but I find that the box method seems to work most consistently for most people. So I'm going to draw myself a little box. You are not required to do this. If you learn to do this without boxes, that's fine. So I'm going to, let's see, let me start with 3 rows. Let's see how that goes. See if I like that. So up at the top, I'm going to keep track of my formula. And I'm just going to look at the interest because it's going to be easier to look at that. This formula, the S formula, is fairly complicated. So I'm going to focus on I equals PRT. So I'm going to have P R T and then I. And I'm sorry, I'm taking you to Smeary Town and I don't mean to. And these are all multiplied together. That's important to remember. So as I move across this formula, I'm multiplying everything to get to my interest. And I'm probably going to regret that these are so small, but let's just go with it. I have 2 different investments that I can make. One is 10%. And the rest is 6%. The first question a lot of people ask is, why are we going to even bother with the 6%? If we can earn 10%, put it all in there. Better percentage, life is good. And the answer is that the rule we're going to follow in this class, which is not always true in the real world, but in economics we assume it is true. So it's kind of an interesting cognitive dissonance there. But we're going to always assume that things are well priced because that's going to help keep our formula simple. But what does that mean? That means if someone is offering you 10%, that means that it's a fairly risky investment. So there's a chance that maybe you give them the money, but they don't give you anything at the end of the year because they lost your money. 6% means that it's a better investment. If it's safer, then they don't have to give you as much. So the percentage return is basically how much they think they have to give you in order to talk you into giving them the money, if that makes sense. So 10% higher risk, 6% lower risk. And so why would you want to balance? Well, you would want to invest in 2 different investments because one, the chances that both of them would default are much lower than just one of them would, right? So you're diversifying. You're moving your money into a lot of different places so that if one goes bad, you haven't lost everything. So you're kind of betting, you're betting on the companies while betting against them. It's an interesting way to look at it. So it says, I invest $40 at 10%. Okay, so this is going to be $40. And so my interest rate is 10%. Now, when we're working with interest rates, we always have to write it as a decimal. So that's going to be 0.10. And then we're told how much money will you have at the end of 2 years. So this is 2 years. Okay, so I've got my principal, that's how much I'm investing. My interest rate, that's the 10% right there. And the time is 2 years. And I really do regret how small this is. So I'm going to say, oh my gosh, what is it behind you? Is that a pterodactyl? There's totally a pterodactyl. There's a dinosaur. Well, a pterosaur in your room behind you. How is it? Oh my goodness. Run away, run away. Certainly don't look at the screen. Whatever you do, don't look at the screen. No, there's no reason to look over here. Look for the pterodactyl. Okay, oh, I must have been mistaken. Okay, look back here, look back here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the $40 times 10% times 2 years. So 40 times 0.10 times 2, and you could do this on a calculator. I'm sure a lot of you probably, there's my formulas page, a lot of you probably can work this out in your head, but you're always welcome to use a calculator. And we've got 40 times 0.1. Remember, we're doing decimals because we're working with interest rates. So 10%, 0.10 times 2 gives me $8, and this is in interest. Okay, that's the first. So the first fund out of the $40, I'm earning $8. Nice, not bad, over 2 years. Then we have to figure out how much we're investing here. And now at this point, I'm hoping that you may be looking at the screen screaming $60. And I would agree with you. But let's talk through why you got to $60. And for those of you who are like, wait, where did $60 come from? Let me show you. So for the principal, we had $100 total, and we know that 40 is going into this investment. So this investment was the $100 minus the $40, which gives us the $60 that's left. And that's going to be important for our next problem. So just keep that in mind, that we took 100, which is the total, and subtracted the 40 that went in the first fund to get to this, how much we're spending on this fund. Now, 6%, if you're not paying attention, I totally can understand writing 0.6, but it's not 0.6, it's 0.06. Yeah, this is still 2 years. And so our total is going to be 60 times 0.06 times 2, which gives us 60 times 0.06 times 2 gives us, and that's interesting, it's $7.20 for our total. We earned almost as much interest in this one because we invested more, right? So it's kind of interesting. Even though this is less than half the money, it is more than half the interest. And then what would we do to get the total amount of interest? Well, the way that these rectangles are set up is as we're moving across, we multiply. And as we move down, I earned $8 plus $7.20. We're going to add 8 plus 720 is 1520. But does that answer the question? It says, how much money will you have at the end of 2 years? Well, hopefully you don't just have the 1520 or else you lost money. You also get the $100 back. So our future value, end of 2 years, future value is the $100 that you invested, the principal, plus the $15.20, which is the interest. And so we get $115.20. Woohoo, we're back. Sorry about that brief technical issue, but magically, woohoo, we have come to the answer. And so the answer, which I was drawing a box around when my phone started ringing, was 100, which was the principal, plus 1520, which is the sum of the interest we got from the 10% investment and the 6% investment. So I added them together to get 1520. And so the future value, the total amount, is that $100 investment plus the interest, which is $115.20. Woohoo! And doing all of that means that our friend the squirrel will be able to do the next problem, which I know you guys are very excited. Da-da, da-da. Da 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 da. Okay, so this problem, we have $100 to invest. Woohoo, sounds familiar. You invest, and this awkwardly moved over here, but it's X dollars at 10%, and the rest at 6%. So this is related, but in this case, we don't know how much we're going to invest at 10%. So we've got part of it at 10%, part of it at 6%. And the first question is, how much to invest at 6%? And then the second part is, write an expression for how much money you will have at the end of 2 years. So again, I'm going to follow the process I did before, but so that we can avoid any pterodactyls, I will try to make it nice and wide, this nice wide box. So here I've got a top, I've got the 2 investments, and I'm actually going to give myself a 4th row. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. And then in my left-hand column, I'm always going to put a smiley face because we love math. I'm going to list my 2 investments, 10% and 6%. And then I'm also going to list this last row, which we didn't include last time, but just to give us a little more space, I'm going to put the total right there. Again, I'm going to start with P. There's going to be R. There's going to be T. And remember, P times R times T gives us the interest. And so I'm going to break this up by fund. So for the 10% fund, how much are we investing? We're investing X dollars. So I'm going to put X dollars here. The interest rate is 10%, which again, I'm going to translate as a decimal, so 0.10. And we're looking at the end of 2 years. So this is going to be 2 years. So the total interest is going to be X times 0.10 times 2, which isn't going to work out exactly. I won't know exactly what it is because X is a variable, but I can simplify this by multiplying the 10% times the 2. So I get 0.2x. So whatever I invest here, I will get 2/10 of it, which kind of makes sense. It's 10% per year. So 10% plus 10%, you're going to end up with 20%. Now, for how much I invested 6%, I need to go back to the previous problem and look at what I did. When we knew we were investing 40, to find how much we were investing at 6%, I took the total, which is 100, and I subtracted the 40. So 100 minus 40 gives me 60. Now, in this case, I don't have 40, I have X. So since the total is $100, oh, that was a terrible dollar sign, then my 6% investment is going to be the $100 minus the X that I invested 10%. My interest rate here, 0.06. Again, it's 2 years across the board. And so I get 100 minus X times 0.06 times 2. Now that's kind of a mess. So there are a couple ways I can look at it. I can go ahead and simplify a little bit. 0.06 times 2 is 0.12. So 6% plus 6% is 12%. So I can start off by writing it 0.12 times 100 minus X. And I've run out of room, so I'll leave it like that. I'll simplify it later. For the total, we don't really have an interest rate because there are 2 different interest rates. We do know it went 2 years, but because we don't have an overarching interest rate, which, by the way, if you're curious, there are ways to come up with like an average interest rate given what we've done here, but it takes a little bit more work. But if you're curious, definitely talk to me about that. We can work it out. And my interest is going to be the sum of these 2. Remember what we talked about in the previous one. As we move across the table, we're multiplying. And as we move down the table, we're adding. And so the final result, let me get a couple of colors here. The final result here is 0.2x And I'm going to add that to this long one. So this is going to be 0.12 times the quantity 100 minus x, which again, we don't know how much this is because we don't know how much this is, right? As x goes up, 100 minus x goes down, and vice versa. So, what are our first two questions? So, the first question, how much do you invest at 6%? I invest, how much? 100 minus x dollars at 6%. So that's the first question, is right there. It's this one. Let's see if this is nice and different enough. So that's the answer to the first question. How much do you invest at 6%? And then we also want to write an expression for how much money we will have at the end of 2 years. So the interest for this is going to be that 0.2x plus the 0.12 times the quantity 100 minus x. So this is the yellow portion right there. That's the 6% piece. And the green piece is from 10%. And then if I want to come up with a really nice expression, I'll probably want to simplify this. So let's see if we can't multiply this out a bit. So 0.2x plus, and I'm going to go ahead and multiply out, 0.12 times 100. Hopefully is not too hard. A lot of people could figure that out. Not everyone. But if you can't, we've always got the calculator to double check. We get 12. So 12% of 100 is 12 minus 0.12x. And then I can combine the x's, and then I get 12 minus, and this is 0.2 minus 0.12. Oh, sorry, not minus. 0.2 minus 0.12 equals 0.08x, or 0.08x plus 12. And that's my interest. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a moment, because I believe in my heart that at every step you can learn something from this equation. So when we're working with word problems, the intermediate steps will actually give us information. So at this stage, before we've simplified, we've got the 10% piece and the 6% piece separated, so we can see each of their interest amounts. But then at this point, when we look at the interest, let's take a look. What is $12? And if we think about where did we get 12? 12 came from 0.12 times 100. So that's 6% of $100 times 2. So this is the interest if we invest everything at 6%. So we would just get this interest, nothing else, if x is 0, right? If we don't invest any amount at 10%, then this becomes 0, and our total interest becomes $12. So then what is 0.08? So let's take a look. What's the difference in the two interest rates? One is 10%, one is 6%. The difference is 4%, right? So where does 8 come from? Well, this is over 2 years. So 4% plus 4%, that's the additional interest you get for every dollar you invest at 10%. So there's a premium if you are brave. And remember that we talked about with the first problem, 10%, because the interest rate is so high, means it's a risky investment. So how much are you going to get paid off for being brave? Well, for every dollar you bravely invest at 10%, you get an additional 8 cents, which doesn't sound like a lot, But if you're investing a lot of money, that can actually add up to quite a lot. So this is our nice formula for interest, but does it answer the whole question? Let's look at the whole question. It says, try that again. Write an expression for how much money you will have at the end of 2 years. Oh my goodness, I reversed the 2 words. Sorry about that. Write an expression for how much money you will have at the end of 2 years. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, is that another pterodactyl? Right behind you. Yeah, right behind you, like coming out of your closet.